Hello, my wonderful viewers, and welcome to another episode of Betty Adams Overanalyzes. Today we are going to take a spoiler-free look at Transformers EarthSpark Season 1, Episode 7, Friends and Family. Now, why 7 episodes in am I mixing it up and suddenly doing a spoiler-free review? Well, I usually try to do a short spoiler-free section at the beginning of each video, and this one just got out of hand. And I was a full video length in, and I realized I hadn't gotten out of the spoiler-free section, so this will be more of a overall analysis of what's going on. But for our not-so-short spoiler-free section, we're going to talk about suspension of disbelief. I was just going to have a short spoiler section, but the topic spiraled so far out of hand and became its own video. So, there will be no spoilers, and so I'm going to have to force in my plug here. Go to check out the links below the video for a copy of my book, Humans Are Weird, I Have the Data. For those few of you who might not know, suspension of disbelief is when the audience willingly and knowingly turns off a part of their brain in order to enjoy the story. The classic example is plays. In old-style plays, and most modern plays today, the stage is simply a low-resolution representation of reality. When a character is stabbed and no blood comes out, because even if the play company could afford squibs, the cleanup would interfere with the next scene. If the play happens on a boat, the best the theater can manage is pasteboard waves. If the play is about a lion cub tragically losing his father in a stampede, well, you can see that Mufasa is just an actor in a highly stylized lion costume. You want to hear the story. You want to feel the tragedy, the love, the victory, the defeat. So your brain looks at the stilts, the pasteboard waves, the red silk scarf spilling out of the wound, and says, okay, I can see that this isn't real, that this is nowhere near realistic, but I am going to shut up that part of my brain that would call this inconsistency out because it would ruin my ability to enjoy the show. And that is suspension of disbelief. Now, for plays and movies, there are certain things we accept due to the limits of reality. Even if the movie, show, play could do this, it would be too expensive, but with books, the vast majority of these limits just don't exist. As an author, or in the case of an animator, the only limit is your imagination. But that doesn't mean you get a clean pass on suspension of disbelief. In fact, it means that your audience will be far, far stricter with you. I read a great piece of writing advice, I can't remember where. Your audience will grant you one great leap away from reality, and then you have to stick to it. If you want to engage your audience, if you really want to entertain them with surprises and plot twists, you have to stick like super glue to the rules that you set up. If you don't, well, you can defend your choices all you want, but the fact will remain that your audience has abandoned you. Now, when you write for an existing franchise, especially if you choose to stick to the rules of the previous iteration, like EarthSpark is doing with G1, for better or worse, you inherit both the fandom agreed upon suspension of disbelief and the rules that you must follow. EarthSpark, as science fiction, of course, inherits these standard suspensions of disbelief that come with science fiction shows. Number 1, aliens, sapient aliens that can and want to interact with humans exist. We have no proof of that. As far as we know, that doesn't exist. May or may not, but we accept it because it is science fiction. Point 2, both faster-than-light travel and artificially stabilized wormholes exist. And as Transformers entry, it receives a few more Transformers-specific elements of disbelief. A, the Transformers can somehow fold excess mass away somewhere when they transform, leading to the size differences between Optimus Prime in his alt mode and Starscream in his alt mode. B, whatever material Cybertronians are made of, their legs can utterly defy the known laws of physics, and two thin leg joints can hold up that much weight, referencing the square cube law. C, human architecture can somehow support the fantastic weights of 2-story tall robots tromping around. D, people just don't notice giant robots sneaking around in either small towns or big cities when it suits the story's purposes. That's a lot of suspension of disbelief, and it's not the unconscious suspension of disbelief. A lot of times it's just you quietly smiling and rolling your eyes and choosing not to comment on it because you want to enjoy the story. Now, one of the points of success of Transformers EarthSpark is that it is not the least bit ashamed of or embarrassed by these inherited suspensions, as many franchises seem to be. Quite simply, EarthSpark not only accepts these suspensions, it takes them and runs with them, as we see in episode 7. Of course, Authority Figure A didn't see Twitch and Thrash. He was chasing Bumblebee in his alt mode. Of course, Authority Figure B didn't see Bumblebee. He was checking his dating app. Everyone and all security cameras just happened to be looking the other way at all critical moments. EarthSpark doesn't make a big deal of this. It just quietly assumes that we, the audience, understand that. Yes, this is absurd on its face, but it is needed for the story to progress, and we all agreed to accept this in the animated versions 2 full generations ago. And if the show doesn't think there is anything odd about that, neither should you. And that is the suspension of disbelief you really need to take into this episode. I would call this a good, solid world building and character development episode. The story is smooth and logical. Everyone is in character. The children act like children. The biology, ecology, and historical elements are fine. The plot doesn't advance much, but the world is built around the characters. If I had a complaint, it would be that there's just not as much here. The camera takes time to linger over natural beauty and uses pauses and lighting to intensify emotion, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the density of the storytelling seems to have taken a sharp dive from previous episodes. Back in episode 5 and 6, I really felt as an author that everything was doing, as the old adage goes, at least 3 things. Whereas in this show, I only get the feeling that each scene is doing 2 or even 1. For instance, when the large tree wobbles after Bumblebee touches it, the first large tree we see to do this, it's foreshadowing the cave. You see the roots have only a few feet of soil and rock to cling to before reaching nothing but the empty space of the cave, so of course the tree is going to wobble when a giant robot leans into it. This is good foreshadowing that the ground here is very shallow and there's a cave underneath them. There's nothing wrong with this writing, it's just not quite as good as the previous episodes. However, fluctuating quality of writing does seem to be a general issue with this show, and it does seem to be getting better overall. So what do you think, my wonderful viewers? Did I miss any of the major suspensions of disbelief required for this series? Tell me any beliefs that you have to suspend to enjoy Transformers in the comment section. Hit that like and subscribe button, and peace out, my wonderful viewers.